Hello everyone and welcome back to Covetous Imp Gaming. Today I want to talk about a third-party campaign called the Demonplague. If you like this video and you like what we're doing on the channel, please hit the like button, leave us a comment below about videos you would like to see in the future, hit the subscribe button and the bell so you're alerted to our future content, and check us out on Facebook and Patreon. Those links are down below. The Demonplague was written by James Introcaso and John Four. It is a full 1-20 campaign, and it's the kind of adventure where your players and their characters are going to feel like the hero because they're doing things like influencing elections and saving the world, and there's not a lot of heroic types out there to aid them or guide them or anything else. It's very much you figure out what's going on as it's happening, and you have to figure it out and solve problems. One thing I love about these end of the world campaigns is that you get to set a deadline, and a very literal deadline. If you reach this point, you're dead and the world ends. Those things are great because it gives the party that sweaty point at, as those days are creeping down, and you know that the world is starting to change, and they're starting to show signs that this evil presence is starting to erupt from its tomb, that the end is near and you have to really speed up your game. So the story of the campaign takes place over 4,000 years, and every 1,000 years this entity returns and wipes out civilization with this plague. And it just so happens that as the campaign's starting, you're coming up on another one of those 1,000 years. One of the things I loved about that 4,000 year story is that if you have a person who plays an archaeologist or a librarian or a historian or anything like that, and I was lucky that I had someone in my group, it's one of my players that has always he always plays the right character. I don't know what it is, but he's always just right where he needs to be, without knowing what he's getting himself into. He just luckily chooses the right thing. In this case, he chose that he was a librarian and a historian. So anytime there was an important lore dump or something like that, I was able to just kind of pass this information on, and he would make a history check, and I remember it was blah 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 blah, and share this information with the party in a very RP heavy, less booky, more RP heavy way of getting that information disseminated to the group. So again, without going into too much detail, Chapter 1 is a ton of political intrigue. You are tasked with a number of activities by the people in this town, and based on who you give credit to, or who you say set you on the task to do X, Y, and Z, at the end of Chapter 1, there's an election, and certain people get elected into positions of power based on your actions and your giving of credit for those actions. Likewise, if the party takes all the credit for all these things, you can also have a party member elected to the town council, and that in and of itself blew my mind that was a possibility to do. It never even had crossed my mind up to this point that you could have a party member just assume power of the town. Meanwhile, at the end of this campaign in Chapter 4, you have a massive mega dungeon where you are pitting your players against the monsters that they ultimately want to fight, and at the same time playing as monsters as a DM that you're going to love using. Things like vampire lords, mummy lords, liches, pit fiends, all these things are strewn out throughout this mega dungeon, and the funny thing is that even in here, the political intrigue is very much alive. You can pit one side against another, make deals, tons of things, all to ensure that your party gets to the end of this and doesn't fail. The story overall was amazing. There were little bits and pieces throughout the story itself, though, that I needed to make changes to, whether it was for the party's benefit or just things that didn't make sense for the path that they had taken. Little like hints that were dropped and then kind of forgotten about, I very much wanted the party to end up pursuing. But I ultimately kind of give this credit to unlocking this creative side of myself that now I pick up a campaign, any campaign book, and kind of do it my own way, and let the party kind of guide the way that it goes, and trust that I can improv my way through whatever they throw in my face. And ultimately, I have now taken to writing my own 1 to 20 campaign that I just started, and it's working out great so far. If you want to check out the Demonplague, it's available on DriveThruRPG. There's also a ton of additional content available, I think, also through DriveThruRPG, that will help fill in any story gaps that you find in the book itself, as well as give you an option if a certain part doesn't really suit the way that your party's going. Maybe you can send them in a different direction with one of the optional side quests. There's also a Facebook group for the Demonplague. And while it's been pretty quiet lately, it does have a ton of information on it, and you can always scroll through the history at least. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you end up running the Demonplague and you run into a couple speed bumps, feel free to message me. Again, it's something that I love talking about, and I can give you some hints about some of the changes that I made to help my party get through some of the speed bumps and some of the downsides to the campaign itself. Thanks for watching. We appreciate all the support, and we'll see you next week.